Hello chess fans, there is some bizarre news from the chess world. There are new developments in the story, the scandal, which has been dominating the chess world for the last 2 years. And it's about Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann again. As we all have been waiting these last 2 years for a rematch in over-the-board play between these two guys. And now, in the final round of the World Rapid Chess Championships for teams in Astana, Kazakhstan, the teams of Magnus and Hans, they were paired against each other. But once the board pairings were announced, it turned out that Magnus Carlsen was not going to play. And that is a real pity, because it's the game we all have been waiting for. And why did Magnus not just play against Hans? This is the game the chess world wants to see. We could have got 1 million views on this channel, or on other channels as well, but I'm trying to boost my channel, so hit the subscribe button if you haven't done yet and watch this video, because there are some incredible things about this story. Well, Magnus had all the rights, let it be clear. I mean, it's a team match and he is not forced to play at all. I mean, you just have other players, reserve players, and in the end Hans Niemann just played against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Also very interesting game, of course. We will check it out in a second. But the question remains, why did Magnus not just play? We can only speculate. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. But it could very well be that Magnus was just not in the mood to play at all, because there's not much to win for him. I mean, if he wins the game, everybody thinks, okay, this is just normal. This is what we expect from him. Whereas if Hans wins, then everybody is like, okay, you see, Hans is the future world champion. Everybody is cheering on him. So there is no reason for Magnus to play. I understand him. On the other hand, it's the game we would have liked to see. And in any case, maybe in just a month from now at the Speed Chess finals in Paris, there's a very good chance that the two will play over the board anyway. So stay tuned for that event as well. But now, let's have a look first at the game of Hans against Jan Nepomniachtchi. As Hans opens here with the move 1 e4. e5, knight f3, knight f6. Knight takes e5. d6, Petrov defense, knight d3, knight takes e4, queen e2, queen e7. Knight f4. Interestingly, this system as white was used by Magnus in his World Championship match against Fabiano Caruana in London 2018. So his idea is here to come in with the knight to d5, to attack the queen, attack the pawn on c7, and the knight on e4 will be in trouble. So here Jan just goes back with a knight to f6, pawn to d4. Queen takes e2, queens are coming off the board, and well, this is not the exciting game we have been waiting for. In fact, it looks like a very symmetrical, or I mean, it is in fact a symmetrical structure, which can also arise from a French, from the Berlin defense, from the Petrov, many openings like this. c3 protecting the pawn, d5, f3, knight d8. Remarkable move, but the knight was not doing too much here, so the knight is on its way to e6. Bishop d3, bishop d6, king f2, knight e6, so the knight on f4 is under attack twice. You can of course aim for the exchange of knights. Knight went back to e2, black goes h5, white goes h4. Not much is changing here in the symmetry of this position. a5, a4, pawns are getting fixed on both flanks. c6, b3, b6, bishop a3, offering the exchange of dark squared bishops, king d7. Bishops are coming off the board, knight e2. And then also the light squared bishops are getting exchanged. And here, well, what can be done here? I mean, the game lasted 15 more moves. Players were going back and forth with their pieces. Rooks were coming to the e-file. And then we see that also rooks are coming off the board. And in the double knight endgame, the players agreed to a draw when the moves were just repeated. Move 36, a draw. And that is not the excitement we had been waiting for. I apologize for covering this game. It's not something I would like to cover, but anyway, we are always interested in the games of Hans Niemann and also in the games of Jan Nepomniachtchi, of course. But please, Magnus, come back next time. We want to see you in action against Hans Niemann. Now, just to, I mean, I've apologized already, but I want to compensate this game with another game which was played, in fact, in the same match of these two teams. It's the game from board 2. Also two very interesting players. Young Kristo Duda, playing for the team of Magnus, and Amin Tabatabai, playing on the team of Hans. And, well, now we get to see fireworks, guys. It's knight f3, d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2. So this is a Reti opening chosen by young Kristo Duda. c6, c4, pawn takes c4, castling kingside. And here the main move is to go knight e7 with the idea to put a knight on b6 so that the knight is trying to hang on to the pawn on c4. But here Tabatabai goes for an interesting move, which has been played before, e6, but it's less common. It's not a bad move. You're trying to complete your development by getting your bishop out very soon and then get ready to castle. The main drawback is that the bishop on c8 is now stuck behind its own pawns. So there are some development issues on the queen side later on. Well, before black does get a chance to play the move b5, Duda goes for the move a4. Good move, knight bd7, queen c2, with the idea to win the pawn back on c4. And in case black goes for the move knight b6, you can also play the move a5. So knight b6 is no longer a good idea. But now the interesting part is e5 is played anyway. So this is black is moving for the second time with his e-pawn. Queen takes c4 played, and look at this, knight c5. Remarkable idea, because also for the second time you're moving that knight. I mean, the other pieces are waiting to get ready to join play. And it's interesting. Note that the pawn on e5 cannot be taken here. There's bishop e6 with tempo. White is a pawn up, but the queen is under threat. If the queen goes away, there is knight to b3. And the rook on a1 in the corner is just trapped. If you go to a3, it will be taken by the bishop. If you go to a2 instead, well, then you're standing in the line of the other bishop. And there's knight takes c1. So black is going to win material here. That's why white should not take the pawn on e5. Instead, fire on the board. Knight g5 played, threatening checkmate in one. And of course, this is something Tabatabai sees. He's not falling into the mating trap. Knight e6, blocking the diagonal of the queen and hitting the knight on g5. d3 played. White doesn't want to take. In fact, he wants black going to take on g5 so that you can recapture with the bishop. Now, a5 is played and white develops the knight via a3. So that later on the knight probably, when the queen is going to move again, will come to c4. Knight takes g5, bishop takes g5 played. And well, frankly speaking, looking at this position, I would expect black to do something about his king in the center. So why not just get a bishop to e7, or perhaps even insert a move like bishop e6 first, hitting the queen on c4. But here the move h6 is played. It's also possible. But now bishop takes f6. White doesn't want to move again with the bishop, rather gives up that bishop for the knight. Queen takes f6. Now black does have the two bishops, but it's not a calm position yet. It's all about dynamical factors. Black will not get a chance to employ his bishop pair. So white has to play very actively and played here the move f4. Beautiful idea, with the aim of opening up the f-file for that rook to target the queen and potentially also that pawn on f7. Pawn takes f4 was played, and it's rook takes f4, attacking the queen. And here we arrive at the critical moment, because where should the queen go to? The queen is under threat. If the queen goes to e6, offering the exchange of queens, there's rook e4 and the queen is lost. Bye-bye queen. That's not going to work. Probably just putting the queen on g6 is a sensible move. So you're defending your pawn on f7. And I guess the point is that if you go for the move bishop e4, attacking the queen, then the queen can come to e6 and white can no longer place the rook on the e-file. So queen g6 still seems playable, but instead queen takes b2 played, attacking the rook on a1. But wait a second, guys, that pawn on f7 is hanging. You may consider taking that pawn, but after king d8, apparently things are not that simple. There's not a good check. The queen is covering the d4 square, so the rook cannot come there. The queen is hitting the rook on a1. Also, the bishop is about to take the knight. looks as if black is doing fine. Instead of taking the pawn on f7, look at the following move. This is what we want to see. We wanted to see this in a game of Hans against Magnus. And I'm not supporting Hans, I'm not supporting Magnus. I want all of them to win. But we want to see excitement. Now on move 16, the board is just set on fire. Everything is hanging. Black's king is in the center. This is how chess should always be played. Bishop takes, pawn on c6 with check. Pawn takes, queen takes c6. It is a double attack, but don't forget that black can also just take on a1 very soon. Well, if you block the check with your bishop, then okay, queen takes a8 comes with check. There's no time to take the rook on a1. So the king went instead to e7. Now queen c7 check played. As white is fighting for the initiative. Doesn't want to capture material, but wants to go after that king in the center. Now, where should the king go to? Well, for instance, if you go king e6, it's asking for trouble. Let's say you go queen takes f7, king d6, knight c4 is probably the simplest human solution. There are probably lines which are going to lead to mate faster, but why not just check this line? You see that you're picking up the queen and black can resign. So king e6 is not possible. If you block with the bishop, there is rook e4. After king f6, the other rook comes into play. And, well, there are so many pieces looking at the black king. King g6, queen takes d7 is the easiest line. You're just up a pawn here, threatening mate in one. Queen f5, even queen takes f7 is an idea. So this is also not worth analyzing any deeper. So king e8 played. Now queen takes f7 with check. King d8. Queen d5. So there's again a double attack. Now after king e8, once again, you may consider taking on e8, but black captures on a1 with check still. So white had a much simpler solution, not give black that opportunity to take the rook. So first rook b1, as the rook is defended by the knight, you're attacking the queen. The queen is in trouble. Queen captures the knight, but then there's queen takes a8. And over here we have a position with a rook against two bishops, but look at this position with so many major pieces eyeing the black king. Black cannot really survive this. Queen went back to c5 with check, trying to consolidate the position, defending the bishop. King to g2. But here the problem is that black's king cannot get out of the center. For instance, if you would play something like bishop e7, well, there is the move rook to c4 with an attack on the queen and the bishop. So white's going to win material, and note that the queen on a8 is protecting the white king as well. So there's no possibility to launch a counter check. Instead, queen c2 was played, attacking the rook, attacking the pawn on e2 as well. But now the rook just comes in to b8, setting up another threat against the bishop. If you take the pawn on e2 with check, there is rook f2. And once again, all the threats have been parried, and after the queen moves, you take with the rook on c8. Therefore, instead, king d7 was played to defend the bishop on c8 one more time. Queen d5 check. And well, where's the king going? If you go king e7, there is rook f7 check, king e8, and here beautiful checkmate. As the bishop doesn't protect the d7 square, the bishop is pinned. So this is a mating line. King e7 doesn't work, king c7. Then the other rook comes into the 7th rank. Rook f7. If you take the rook, queen b5. And well, these pieces on the king side and the queen on c2, they're all out of play. It's mate by force. You pick up the pawn on a5 so that the queen comes to a7 with checkmate. Very convincing line. Therefore, bishop d6 was played. Looks like black is in time to consolidate. Well, don't really think that, guys. Forget about it. Rook f7 anyway. King goes back to e8. And here the final move of the game is queen e6 check. You're keeping the rook defended. And once again, the bishop is pinned, cannot take the queen. So the only move here is king d8. But then you just can play here the move queen to d7 with the checkmate. So therefore, after queen e6, Jan-Christoph Duda totally crushed his opponent in only 27 moves. Very, very impressive game. As Tabatabai is not a bad player at all, rated 27 plus. So very cool game, and I hope I at least compensate you with this game for the game with Hans Niemann against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Anyway, please let me know in the comments, what do you think of this bizarre story with Magnus sitting out in that final round game against Hans Niemann? And do you think it was a clever decision? Is Magnus afraid to play Hans? I would like to hear from you, but more importantly, I want you to boost the channel. Let's get 6,000 subscribers. That's the first step, but we should get much further than that, of course. I will keep you covered if there are new developments in this story and much else. Many more exciting games to be expected here on the channel. So, see you soon again.